Well, as you guys can imagine, anything to do with this man is going to leave an uneasy feeling in your gut. Whether it's due to what he was guilty of or the suspicion around his untimely death, the name Jeffrey Epstein has unfortunately become a household name for all the wrong reasons. Of course, after the news broke of what he had been doing on his island, the question of who he did it with also started to arise. Numerous photos showed Epstein with the likes of former presidents Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, as well as other high-profile wealthy associates, including Bill Gates. Doesn't mean they're all there for the same reason, but it's not a good look at all. Now regardless, a TikTok user snuck onto Epstein Island and found some pretty wild stuff. I'm gonna tell you guys all about it right now, and I smash that like button and let's get into it. Now if this video does hit 1,500 likes, I may sneak onto the island myself and burn it down, because God knows that place is as unholy as ever. And I don't think I would ever actually want to be there. Let's get into it. Now I will say, going to Andy Bracco's TikTok page, it seems the posts have been removed yet again. Why do I say yet again? Well, according to Andy, who is behind the clips, he posted the footage a year ago and TikTok removed it. I don't know, it just seems like Epstein, TikTok, and the truth all have something in common. Nobody wants to know what they are. Just saying. In fact, they removed his account altogether, so he re-uploaded the footage again, but it seems they removed that footage as I can't find the clips or even his account at the time of this recording. So that's very interesting. That being said, it seems Andy posted some footage on YouTube as well, which is there to stay. And the footage actually dates back to August 2020, after someone commented on the original post that he didn't actually visit Epstein's Island, which was given a different name that I can't even say. Back in 2020, while speaking with The Sun, Bracco explained, I quote, "There is active security there. I visited the site twice over the week, and one of the times was in daytime, which was a little bit riskier. The route we took, we avoided a lot of cameras on the island, along with the workers and guards. We got pretty lucky, but we planned it a few months ahead, spoke to locals, and we knew what we were dealing with. I wouldn't suggest anyone go there unless you really know what you are doing." Now, if I could just suggest something here for a second, guys, just don't go to the island at all. Don't go anywhere near it, because it's a private island, and that could be considered trespassing, which is illegal. I don't know. I just wouldn't do it. But it seems Andy and his pal John Megna were able to find their way onto the island, but as you can imagine, it wasn't easy. And after uploading the footage and going viral yet again, Bracco talked about the supposed hidden tunnels running all across the island. Speaking with Newsweek, he explained, I quote, "If I was to have entered the unlocked temple that I clearly came into close contact with, I would never self-incriminate by showing my audience how I got in. Getting in would then subsequently have allowed me to access the tunnels. Between my two visits to the island, I did peer into the temple from the outside and noticed a staircase descending downwards." Now, I feel like him posting any footage of him on the island is incriminating, like even just being there. But maybe not. I'm not a lawyer, so I really don't know. Now, as I mentioned, TikTok removed the footage, YouTube left it on. In August of 2020, Bracco uploaded a 6.5-minute version of his adventure, and then in November, he uploaded an extended, almost 14-minute version of the same adventure. Some notable spaces Bracco shows in both videos include the infamous sundial seen on Epstein's Island, as well as the large bodies of water surrounding the island itself, and the blue and white temple Epstein was seen in front of numerous times. Expanding on what he saw and how he maneuvered around, Bracco told Newsweek, I quote, "Security most definitely existed on the island during both my visits. The months of effort that went into planning for just a few hours of exploring are so disproportionate. I took into account so many things, asked as many resources available as I felt we needed to know, while still attempting to remain superstitious. On both of my visits, we remained completely undetected due to following our very careful planning and other covert entry procedures. We stayed away from the main dock, the main house, and the infrared cameras. And at one point, both Andy and his pal John were almost caught by the cameras, with him explaining, I quote, "There was one super serious part when we didn't account for what I believe was an infrared camera by the communications tower. It was pointing directly at us, and if there was a sensor facing us, and depending on what software they had, it could have set off an alarm. So we had to rush off pretty quickly." Still, even though this is a dangerous trek, and really I don't know why you'd want to go there in the first place, it seems people do. Even if there is some upkeep, likely in hopes of someone else buying the property, what could you want to do there? And knowing all the awful things, the disgusting awful things that went down there, why would you want to explore it? I'm personally not huge into ghosts or spirits or anything like that, but I just feel like there's some bad vibes just teeming out of this place. It's just not somewhere I'd ever want to be. But as we know, people will do anything for clout, and as Andy explained, I quote, "I have had multiple copycat explorers contact me telling me they attempted to gain entry to the island recently. All have been stopped by either Coast Guard, armed private security on boats, or the two that made it to the island. Both told me an automated PA system yelled at them saying Coast Guards has been contacted and it turned back immediately." I mean, look guys, especially when a lot of money is involved, people can just disappear, no questions asked is all I'm saying. And especially if no one knows you're going to Epstein's island, but instead you lie and you tell your family and friends something else, almost as like an alibi, I'm just saying I wouldn't recommend it. And he spoke about some of the island's buildings, claiming they appear to be cheaply made for someone with so much wealth. Some walls had fake painted doors and the initials JE inscribed on them. I wonder who that could be. At one point, Bracco said, I quote, "The shadowy people contacted him via his cell phone right after his trip, which led to him feeling paranoid." Like I said, guys, lots of money, weird stuff tends to happen all the time. That's all. There was also apparently like locks on the outside of doors. Like, you know, like medieval times when it's like they had a metal lock that was like, you had to like lift it up heavily. That's on the outside to keep people in apparently. So that's also something to note. Now, should any updates come from this, we'll be sure to let you guys know. Seems like Andy is okay for now, but I'd love to hear more about these shadowy people. He didn't really talk much. He just said shadowy people are contacting him and that's it. And I'm like, what is that?
After billionaire Jeffrey Epstein was exposed for his crimes against women, we learned that at the epicenter of it all was his island in St. James. And even though we know a lot about his island now, there are still many peculiar things about it that you probably don't. And at number 10, the temple. One of the more peculiar things on the island is this blue striped building that looks like a temple with a golden dome on top. Some of Epstein's staffers claim that it was a music room where he would play piano because he was a classically trained pianist. However, some theorize that it actually had an elevator in it that would take people to a hidden location. However, a contractor claimed that it was most likely not possible to have an elevator inside. But the contractor did take note of something very odd about the door to this temple. The door to the temple has a huge piece of wood in front of it as a giant lock. The contractor said about it, quote, "What makes it peculiar is that if you wanted to keep people out, the bar would be placed inside the building, but the locking bar appears to be placed on the outside, as if it were intended to lock people in." I think that really just says it all. And at number 9, treasure. Apparently, it was a well-known fact that Epstein was fascinated with pirates and hidden treasure on the island. He would even pay staffers if they happened to find something interesting. Apparently, if his staff brought him anything of value, he would pay them between $100 to $1,000, depending on the item. His staff were known to bring him old rum bottles, plates, and other dishware that they found. And at number 8, t-shirts. One employee from Epstein's island exposed a strange thing about Epstein's t-shirts. The employee alleged that Epstein has a storage closet filled with stacks and stacks of brand new Lacoste white polo shirts, all size medium. And you might be thinking he probably just wears the same types of shirts a lot, so he wants to have a lot of them. But that's not the case. Apparently Epstein refused to wear the shirts more than once, and after wearing them only one time, he would give them to his cleaning staff to use as rags. And if you're wondering how much these shirts cost, they're about $90 each. And at number 7, Bill Clinton. Many people have been accused of being at Epstein's island at one point or another, but one of the most frequent alleged guests was former President Bill Clinton, although he has repeatedly denied the claims. One woman named Virginia Roberts told her lawyers in 2011 that she saw Clinton with, quote, 2 young girls on the island. She apparently asked Jeffrey what Bill Clinton was doing on the island, and Epstein replied that, quote, "Well, he owes me a favor." After the accusations, Ghislaine Maxwell claimed Clinton was never on the island. However, one of Clinton's former aides claimed that Bill did visit the island in 2003. And at number 6, hard to leave. We know the island was the location of all of Epstein's crimes, and he made it isolated so that nobody would be able to come to the island uninvited, and so that it would be hard for anyone to leave. The island is so isolated from the rest of society that the only way to get there is by private boat or helicopter. This isolation also made it very difficult for law enforcement authorities to monitor Epstein. According to reports, Epstein confiscated passports and stopped any communication the women would have with the outside world. One person actually attempted to escape by swimming away in the ocean, but Epstein and his security found her almost immediately. After this, it was clear she was being watched 24/7 by his guards. Halfway number 5, kept authorities out. Along with his secrecy and privacy, he made sure that law enforcement was never able to step foot on the property, and he had security constantly monitoring the docks. When authorities attempted to check on Epstein, his guards would tell them that it's private property. US Virgin Islands Attorney General Denise George recounted that officers were stopped at the docks immediately when they tried to arrive. Apparently, he even hired people to install a private network for his phone calls and internet, so authorities were never able to track what he was doing. And at number 4, strange paintings. Something else that was discovered about Epstein was that he had some strange art in his home depicting political figures. One art piece is called the Parsing Bill. It shows former President Bill Clinton in a blue dress and high heels, pointing at the viewer. The blue dress seems to be a reference to the blue dress that served as evidence in Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky. Apparently, the Daily Mail first snapped a picture of the painting in Epstein's home in 2012. Another one of the paintings is called War Games, and it shows former President George W. Bush sitting on the floor of the White House playing with paper airplanes and 2 fallen Jenga towers, referencing his manipulation of the attacks of 9/11 to justify war in Iraq. The painting makes Bush look very childish. And at number 3, Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew is another one of the most famous people who is alleged to have been on the island on multiple occasions. Virginia Roberts Guffrey discussed her encounters with Prince Andrew in the series Surviving Jeffrey Epstein. In the doc, Guffrey claims that Prince Andrew slept with her when she was only 17. She also claimed that he joked that she was only a few years younger than his own children. Guffrey claims that Epstein arranged encounters between her and Prince Andrew on 3 separate occasions. Once in London, once in New York, and once on the island. Apparently, Epstein forced her to fly to these places to sleep with him. Lisa Phillips also claimed that Guffrey was not the only woman whom Epstein dispatched to Prince Andrew, and there were others who just kept quiet. And at number 2, people still work there. Since Epstein is now deceased, you might think that his island is deserted or something, but that's not the case, and the island is still being very heavily patrolled, even though we assume no one's actually staying there. When Inside Edition tried to go to the island and came up to the shore, they were immediately stopped by employees. Then more recently, some TikTokers decided to go to the island as well, and again they were chased out by employees who were guarding the property. Honestly, this all just makes me wonder who actually has control over the island now that he's deceased. I'm not sure if he had any children, I don't believe that he did. Apparently now that more people are trying to sneak onto the island, security has been increased even further. But again, it's like, who's actually paying for all this security? Very strange. And finally, number 1, epicenter of everything. After many investigations into the island, it's now clear that the St. James Island is where all of the horrible acts took place. Fox News reported that Epstein employed people on the island responsible for obtaining girls for his clients. To get these girls to the island, he would fly them to St. Thomas, and then he would ferry them over to his private island via a boat named Lady Glazane. Of course named after Ghislaine Maxwell. The island was created so all the horrible acts could take place and nobody would ever find out. Epstein also made it impossible for the girls to leave without his permission.